Good day to you all. Today we are going to be having some sort of a different kind of conversation, but it's not very different from what we've been talking about recently, about Cameroon, about our history, about our country, and also our people. Today we are joined by Masango. He is author of Your Name Is My Name. That is actually a very, very powerful book that he's recently launched. And it tells the story of struggle, the struggle of guilt and that of hope during one of Cameron's most painful periods. He's going to be telling us why he decided to pick this title. But before then, the book is taking us into the lives of people caught between their love of the country and the violence of revolution. It's also a story about how people will go for freedom and how far they will go in their fight for freedom and what it will actually cost them. Through his characters or the characters that we find in the book, we are going to be asking very hard questions and what it can mean for the Cameroon future, the history of the country, and where this book is supposed to be now. Because generally in our history classes in secondary, primary, and even university, we don't get to talk a lot about our history. Hello, sir. Good evening to you this evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Mimi. Thank you for your journalistic activism. I have followed you a lot, and I'm glad you're the first person to interview me since I launched this book. Thank you so much
It's
for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. It's also our pleasure. This book is actually coming within a very particular context in the history of our country, where many young Cameroonians are rising and asking for change. And they are talking about so many years of stagnation. But that's not what we will be dwelling most on this evening because we are focusing on this masterpiece that you've come up with. But
Thank
let's
you.
start with the title, first of all. But before the title, can we know who you are, what you've been doing over the years, and why you decided to write a book?
Oh, sure. And thank you so much for that wonderful expose. So, my name is Kangsen Masango. My mother is from Agem, and I'm named after Reverend Kangsen, who was a moderator of the Presbyterian Church. He was my grandfather. He raised my mother. My last name is Masango. My father is from the Bakosi people. And this story takes place in the Bakosi lands, the Bakosi Bamileke conflict. And when I was growing up, I heard about it and I heard about the legends attached to it. But as I grew up, my scholarship took me to understand the politics that led to this unfortunate incident. And I felt I had to write about it because this book is a Cameroonian, is a Bakosi story. My dad, as a young man, was in one of the groups that was the auto defense groups when this fracas was going on. My grandfather too. So a lot of people that I love were touched by this event.
Mm,
So I
that's
had to write about it.
interesting.
Yes.
But also, you've titled this book, Your Name Is My Name. This is very, very powerful. And the message behind it, I think only you can be able to some sort of dissect it and tell us what exactly it means. Can you tell the readers or your potential readers
Yes.
why the choice of this name, this title?
So thank you so much for that question. This title is based off of a poem I wrote for the book, right? And this poem is witnessed. It's recited at a Upasist gathering, and a young man witnesses, and it's the first time he has a sort of patriotic feeling. He thinks of himself as a Cameroonian because of this poem. And what the poem attempts to do is to unify the entirety of Cameroon, irrespective of our clans and the languages that we speak. But it also attempts to reach out to the blackness of the world, the Africanness of the world. And that's why the poem includes aspects of African American struggle, even
Mm,
though, because African Americans are simply Africans in a different place at a different time, but they are our siblings. Their names are our names. So that's why this poem was this. I decided to use this poem as the title of the book to speak to that
mm,
reach, that universal embrace of Africanness, of blackness, to let us know that we can as a united people. Whether it's a united Cameroon, whether we're talking about a united Africa, whether we're talking about an integrated black diaspora that is focused on elevating each other and escaping from the oppressions of white supremacy, escaping from the things that have plagued us for years, even from the terror that we cause on ourselves. So the book is definitely allegorical because it talks about rebels who lost their way. They were inspired to be great Cameroonians, but then they started to perform violence.
I see
And
that the book is telling the story in the eyes of that particular character you
that's
mentioned earlier. Is that you, or maybe your grandfather, your great grandfather? Who is that character that you're depicting in this
so
story in the book?
based about what I know about Cameroon, because I grew up in the Bakosi area, I went to school at GHS Nyasoso. Shout out to GHS Nyasoso. That's my alma mater. So I do not think that at that time there could have been a Bakosi man who would have been aligned with the UPCist, right? But I could
Mm,
not tell the story from a Bamileke perspective because I'm not Bamileke. However, I wanted to articulate the atrocity that comes from tribal generalizations that is so often happens in Cameroon because of politics. And this is extremely personal to me. Like in the 90s, during the SDF fracas and stuff like that, I lost a cousin. He was burnt alive in Kumba, a family member. Since the crisis has gone on, and at the height of it, I used to see my dead friends on Facebook. On Facebook. So
yeah.
I decided to write a story that spoke to the violence of the past that is speaking to the violence of the now.
Mm,
But at the
mm,
same time, I wanted it to be a love letter to Cameroon, to the people of Cameroon, to the culture of Cameroon, yet criticize what I think is holding us back. Whether we're talking about, you know, short-sightedness on the part of those who may govern us, or just things like
tribalism, which
tribalism,
is a big
nepotism.
problem, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you've talked about something very key. Tribalism is a big problem, really dividing us, and it's even turned political and
Yes.
even sometimes very deadly, so to speak. We've seen people, those tribal lines that we didn't used to see before. We are seeing them now. So you're being defined by where you come from. You're treated according to who you are. And sometimes, even when I meet brothers and sisters, I mean, it's not everywhere, but sometimes people would ask me, "Oh, are you from the English speaking part of Cameroon, or are you a francophone or an anglophone?" I say it doesn't really matter. I'm a Cameroonian. So, where does this book come in? How does it matter within the context of these divisions? I'm talking about this issue of tribalism. I'm talking about.
I hope that we could see the futility of it, the short-sightedness of having a relationship with someone based on their tribal heritage. It is no different from a white man being racist towards me because I'm black. So it even makes us more stupid because we are in the same national borders, and it is very, very important that we work with each other to build our country. But secondly,
Mm,
we're also from the big Bantu family, right? So again, you hear Bakosi, we're speaking about people that are from a great ethnic group that is inherently related to each other, irrespective of the languages that they speak, the difference in languages that they speak. So it is ultimately a stupid practice. It is also very, very crippling to ourselves as Cameroonians.
mm. So you start this book also with a Bakosi saying, let me read it. Man wrestles with culpability in the heart. I
That's
mean, you said it in the
correct.
Bakosi language. What does this mean to you, and how does it shape the story in this book you've written?
So the protagonist, first of all, that saying, okay, is "Mwakwa nkase daso anlemte." That is, man feels the case in his heart, to say it in pidgin. That's what
Mm,
it means. But the essence of it is you're wrestling with guilt in your heart, right? And
mm,
everyone does that. And this character, Diobe, his name Diobe, which means God gives, Diobe, you know, he's wrestling with the fact that he's attached to the Upesist, yet he's a Bakossi man, and he's witnessed something criminal, right? That if his fellow Bakosis find out that he's a part of, he may be killed.
mm,
So he's
mm,
existing with tension throughout the
mhm,
text.
mhm,
You know, there is an interpersonal tension with his enemies and the boyhood enemy he has growing up. There's an enemy with there's a tension with his tribe as a Bakosi person who is attached to what we may call a Graphi ideology, a Upesis ideology, a Bamileke ideology, iris the many ways that they could say that at that time, right? And he's also at war with the state because he's a
mm.
rebel. So it's a three-tier level of conflict that drives the entire tale.
Right.
And
So,
also he's in
mm.
love with a woman known as Edenge.
Oh,
Edenge means beloved in Bakossi.
oh, that's interesting.
Oh
And
yes.
let us come back to the title again before we move further. I know you've explained why you chose your name is my name, but it feels a bit personal and emotional as well to come up with a title like that one. Why did you choose it? What does it represent to you as an individual?
Oh, so I feel like personally I exist within that liminality, right? Within that space of intertribalness. My
Mm,
mom is from Agam nobility, right? From the Agam noble houses. She's from Menchum. You know,
mm,
my dad is a Bakosi man. And all my life in many of the spaces I've gone to, I felt like, yo, your mom is Graphy, or I felt like, oh, your dad is Bakosi, or I felt that, you'd be Graphy or you'd be Southwest type thing, right? And then
yeah.
I grew up in Douala, and then you're Francophone or are you Anglophone, you know what I mean? Even though my French is horrible because I hated French teachers as a rule when I was growing up. I was just stubborn in class, you know?
Mm,
So I've always existed within this space of two people. I was born in the United States, but I grew up in Cameroon. So sometimes in Cameroonian spaces, you're not Cameroonian enough, which is ridiculous, And then sometimes in American spaces, you're not an American. Even though the idea of America is a belief in a type of democracy, it's not necessarily a culture, it's necessarily a belief in a type of democracy. But that's a different
mhm,
story. This is an African story we're talking about.
yeah.
So, yeah. So that's why I wrote this book to speak about how useless it is to have these contours
Mm,
that divide us instead of unite us. Your name
right.
is my name, you know.
Mm,
But even
yeah.
on a general level, when I was doing more research to study the transatlantic slave trade and how it affected Cameroon, how it was taking place from people were shipped from Bimbia to Fernando Po all the way to Brazil and to the United States. I went to this database and I saw certain slaves or enslaved Africans. And I saw people whose name were Bakosi names before they got to America and they were given an anglicized name, an English name. I saw Bangi names where the slave was originally from. So I realized like this is black people all over the world are us. They
Yeah.
are us. That's why their names are our names. And you see that theme throughout the book.
Mm.
Mhm.
It's quite an interesting book. I mean, there are so many chapters, interesting ones. There's also a part where there's a poem, very interesting poem that I went through, particularly in chapter 4. And I will urge everyone. Masanga is going to tell us how Masango, sorry, is going
Yes.
to tell us where to buy the book, to where to get it. But there's this moving poem that you've written in chapter 4, and it feels like a cry from deep down, I mean, your heart. almost a pause in the middle of all the chaos that you've described so far. You've talked about the UPC, the Marquisat time,
Yes.
that struggle between someone from Bakosi and what he saw, the violence he saw. And, this poem comes like that calm. It's talking from your heart. Why did you include this poem? And what are you trying to express through it?
So I want this poem to speak to all Cameroonians, first of all. Like the opening line of that poem is, because we're Cameroonian, no matter which white man's language we speak. So the linguistic divide, the language divide we have, when you think about it, it's foreign. It comes from white people. I'm a Bakosi man, right? But there are
Mm,
Bakosi people from Kongsamba, like the great famous Didier Yango, who's actually a francophone. So that
mm,
man is my Bakosi brother, but because he's a francophone, there's a divide. And in some instances, there's also a misunderstanding. It's
mm,
just the simple, many situations where people who should act as one act separately, and this leads to our weakening as a people. The same
mm,
thing happens all over in many black spaces, whether we're talking about or many African spaces, you know.
mm. Yeah, so it's interesting. Let's look at the book itself. It's like it's talking about the past, something that happened so many decades ago, yet it feels like it's still current because you are still going through all of these things, especially when you are trying to say, oh, you never really feel like you are American enough in the US, and you never ever feel like you're Cameroonian enough when you're in Cameroon. There are many people would relate to that testimony when people have called me Bamileke because I'm Cameroonian. Of course, my father is also Bamileke from the West region. I've
Yes,
had people call me Bamenda because my mom is from the Northwest.
correct.
So those appellations, how people are called based on where they come from, it makes you feel like sometimes you really don't, except you really have your feet on the ground and you cannot be moved by those derogatory appellations because they never call them within a positive context. It's
No,
always when you are being described or something is happening, it might be used to insult you or something like
correct.
that. Yeah, so it kind of talks about the past of Cameroon, and it's
Yes.
also talking about the present because we feel and hear you through the story. What do you think it says about today's Cameroon? And what kind of future? Maybe first of all, tell us, because I wanted to know what kind of future you are hoping for. But what does it tell us about the Cameroon that we see today?
Okay, so I'm very, very much inspired by Marcus Garvey, who was a Pan-Africanist, right? And he always spoke about self-actualization. And my hope, what I dream of for Cameroon, is a land that self-actualizes with every resource that we have. I've traveled to a lot of places, and I've been fortunate to do so, whether you call it a blessing or a curse, because some of it was in the interest of war. I used to be a
It's a
soldier.
blessing. It's a
Yeah,
blessing.
it's a
Mm.
blessing. And I've happened to see certain things. I hope to see more. And I wish I could see Cameroon use what they have to do so much because we are rich. We are rich and we don't know. I feel like there is a level of blindness to the things that we actually do have, you know. So I want Cameroon to mostly self actualize. I know that self actualization does not happen in a vacuum, right? We need an infrastructure to make this happen. And
Mm.
it is not lost upon me that we don't necessarily have that infrastructure. But my hope is that we just continue to thrive towards this self-actualization and independence, without foreign influence. We want to cut the shackles of neocolonization. And that is what that book talks about. The rebels did not want to have influence from Paris. Right now, they found cobalt in Cameroon. Cobalt. If we do not
Mm.
come together soon, that is going to be, we can become, we are at risk of becoming another Congo. If we do not
Mm.
have the infrastructure to make sure that our resources take care of our people and develop our people, we will only continue to slide into another Congo. And that is a fear that I have because people I love will die if this happens. Just as people I love have died because of what's going on in Cameroon. So yes,
Yes.
this book is extremely personal.
Mm. So books like this actually tells us, or it feels like part of our history are not being told when we hear from your explanation. And I must confess that I've not read through the book completely, but I've started reading already. But just seeing how rich it is in terms of, telling our country's history, telling the people what happened in the past and relating it to today's happenings. I can't help but wonder why we don't have it in our schools yet, or books like this in our schools yet. Do you think that the current curriculum in Cameroon teaches enough about our past, about our history?
No, it does not. I went to school in Cameroon, from one to upper six. So I know. In geography, we practice fishing in Norway. Meanwhile, the Barumbi lakes have many fish, and we don't even know how many fishes are in there. Do you understand what I mean? This is we study European stuff. We study extensive mechanized agriculture in Denmark, and then we don't even have the machines to do agriculture. Why are we
Mm,
studying that stuff? There's a character in the book. His name is Jean Baptiste Bayemlikok, and he's a rebel, of course. And these are his arguments. He goes to a school called St. Michael's College in Boya. It's modeled after St. Joseph's, but Sasa has a lot of lawyers, so I did not want to go ahead and use their name irresponsibly. I couldn't make the proper contact, you know. But yeah, the history we learn, we don't learn Cameroonian history enough. How slavery impacted Cameroon is not taught enough in school at all. It's not because I learned things about Cameroon from researching this book in grad school that I did not learn when I was in Cameroon taking history or economics or geography. So yes, our curriculum is failing us. I hope that this changes soon. There's an effort in a lot of academia to decolonize, you know. So I hope that this comes to Cameroon and we learn about our history, our legends, our truths.
mhm. Have you also made efforts to make your name is my name included in the school program so that maybe literature or even history students can start learning to reconnect with the country's past, the country's history?
That is my hope. That is my hope. I hope that especially the Presbyterian schools like the CPC Valley, every Presbyterian school that does not necessarily have to abide to a government set curriculum and stuff like that could consider it in their schools. I would be honored. It would be an honor to have this. I've reached out to the dynamic and Red Ngafo of Natural
Mm.
Comprehensive. I hope that she really considers this book as well, and she's on the same path of African empowerment with a curriculum and stuff like that. So I'd be honored if Cameroonians consider this text as one of theirs and own it. Yes, and I wrote the book in a manner, the dialogue especially, because I was hoping that people could perform it. you
Mm.
know I hope that there's certain aspects of the book that people could practice. There's this literary activist Elambo Tamangjong. He teaches children a lot of literature. He's a great teacher. I think that creative endeavors could be made from the book. Could perform aspects of the book in speeches, like how people used to perform Shakespeare in Cameroon. The same thing. So there's certain aspects of the
Mm.
book that had that in mind. you
So
know
do you want to perform like maybe a sentence so we see, or maybe we wait to see whether our performers will do a better job?
you know what
That
I
was
have
just
been.
for fun. That was just for
No, you guys, I'm honored. I humbly present this book to my Cameroonian family, to my African family, to my global family. And
mm.
you guys do with it as you may, enjoy it, and you do the performing. I've been with it for too long.
But they have to give you the credit because copyright issues and so on. They
Oh, oh
always have to
yes.
give
Oh,
you the credit.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
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 So where can people find it? If someone wants to buy it, maybe in Cameroon or in Europe or in the US, how can
Yeah.
people find it?
So the book is now on Amazon. It's on Barnes or Noble. It's on Goodreads. It's on Kobo Books. It's on Google Books too. So it's on
Mm,
those. If you go on, if you type in my name on any website, this should come up. The book is available on many distributors, through many distributors.
yeah, and this is the book actually. So this is how it looks like. You can see the colors. You can see the cover picture is so nice. It looks like
Thank you.
someone climbing to the top. I don't know whether the top is going to the future or is it like for achievements or I don't understand. Can you tell us why you
So
picked that picture?
you're saying everything that the picture implies, right? And of course, since the story takes place in the Coupe Mountain, he's
Mm,
climbing a slope. But the colors, of course, the green, the reds, the yellow speak to the colors of our country. And the designs also speak to knowledge, known and unknown, and a future, known and unknown. So you're speaking,
mm.
that's what the book cover speaks to.
So thank you so much, Kansen Yase Masango. Is there
Yes.
anything you want Cameroonians to know other than what we have discussed?
Um, I love you all. I appreciate the political activism in Cameroon. I want to amplify your voice. Your voice is my voice. Your name is my name. Your mother is my mother, and your father is mine too.
Mm.
One love to all Cameroonians.
Right. We remain a one people, one people. And it's not irrespective of where we come from, we are still the same people. Thank you so much for reminding us that our history matters and that we need to really, like you would have just said, oh, you have a lot to do. You have a bright career where you are in the US. You don't even need to start talking about the history, but you've decided to kind of conscientize us, tell Cameroonians what they need to know about their past, what they need to know about their history. And hopefully, we can start having books like this in our history lessons, in the school programs, in secondary, primary, and even our universities. Thank you so much, Masango, for this masterpiece. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mimi, for having me. Thank you. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
The pleasure is always ours, and we want to thank our viewers who are joining us as well. That it was so amazing having you today to be part of this conversation with Kangsen Masango, who is author of Your Name Is My Name, a book that tells the story of struggle, guilt, and hope during one of Cameroon's most painful periods. But also, it takes us to the present, is talking about the future, even. And hopefully, this book would mean something to some of you, as it means a lot to me when I looked at it. Please go look for it and please buy and reach out. I don't know if he actually told us how you can contact him. How can people also reach out to you if they want to maybe get to talk to you, get to know you?
Oh,
Maybe
I'm
they
on.
have some questions. How can people?
Oh yes, please. I'm on Facebook. Kangsen Yase Masango. Look me up. Send me a message. I'm on Instagram, and my website is coming when I get my tech guy to move quickly.
Yeah. So yes, thank you, and God bless you all, and goodbye.